Hi, my name is Jen with Vazquez Photography, and I help the adventurous, fun, and playful party bride capture the life of her wedding while she celebrates the wedding of her life. I'm assuming that you're here because you just got engaged and you thought you'd take a look around and see what advice people are giving before you get started in that wedding planning. So first of all, congratulations. It is such an exciting time in your life, and it'll sometimes seem like a full-time job, but for the most part, it's going to be a fabulous time, and ultimately, you're marrying your best friend, and that's really all that matters. Today, we'll be discussing 4 tips or 4 things that you should really do before you start any of your wedding planning process. The first tip, which is typical for budgeting, is to not only decide how much you have to spend. That will entail talking with your parents, talking with your fiance, deciding if you and your fiance are going to be paying for the bulk of the wedding, if your parents are going to stipend toward that. Sometimes we have special aunts or godparents that are going to help. Whatever the case may be, you need to first identify how much money you have to spend. But the second question is, you want to know, how much money do you want to spend? Oftentimes, a cost of a wedding is the down payment for a home in some areas of the country. You want to be thoughtful. If you've had your heart set on your wedding, then go for it. But if you want to also be able to set aside some money to buy a home or whatever your budgetary constraints are, make that decision. And you need to decide not just how much money you have to spend, but how much money you choose to spend on your wedding. No matter what your budget is, just know that there will come a point in your wedding planning process where things pop up that you did not anticipate. Things like you have a budget for your wedding dress and you think that you've saved money on that budget because you have $1,000 to spend and you found a dress for $800. That's great. But most brides don't know you need to make alterations on the dress, which can be quite costly. Buy some shoes for that day or the undergarments that are required for that dress to fit properly. There's all these sneaky little things that pop up. So I always say, take 10% of whatever you've identified that you are going to spend on your wedding, and put that aside for these last minute pop-up expenses. Put that on your budget. Next tip that I have for you is to identify either the venue, if the venue is most important to you, because a venue will decide how many people it will hold, or if the number of guests that you want to invite is the most important part to you for your wedding, then you need to decide how many people you're going to be inviting, and then you need to find a venue. So it's either the venue or the number of guests, and you need to make that decision, one or the other, first before you go into that next step. It can be tricky because your parents are going to have a certain amount of guests that they want to bring on both sides, and you may have work friends, or your fiance may have work friends, and then you also have your close friends maybe from high school or college, and he will have his friends from either high school or college. And then you might have those friends that you have as a couple. Instead of trying to figure out who you're going to invite or how many people you're going to invite, you also need to decide who you can't live without being there when you get married. My tip for this part of the, figuring out all of your wedding planning stuff is to have your parents make a list of the people that they absolutely need to have there. Have you and your fiance list out as many friends as you want, as many people that you know as you want, and then you're going to go back through that list and you're going to start, because it will probably be around 500 people. And if that's not the number of people that you want to be able to host at your wedding, then you need to make sure that you go through and start eliminating people. And one thing that usually helps with this is, if it's not family, if you haven't seen that person for over a year, then it's not a person that really is required to be there, because they're not somebody that's really in your life day to day. Now, there's always exceptions to that, but that's kind of a good area. If you have to whittle down that guest list, that's a great area to start. The third tip, wedding party. It's also about the bridesmaids and the groomsmen that you want to have in your wedding. More and more people are not having large wedding parties with a bunch of bridesmaids and a bunch of groomsmen. Some people are only having a maid of honor, best man, to stand up for them and to sign that wedding document. But if you are going to have a wedding party, you definitely want to think about it for some time. So all of these other wedding tips that I'm going over are things that you kind of want to make a decision on right away. Unfortunately, a lot of brides make the decision on their wedding party before anything else, and oftentimes that can cause some issues. One way that it can be a problem is because you get all excited and tell people that you're engaged, and then you feel this sort of obligation to ask those people that you've shared the information with to be in your wedding party, but you don't realize that you're going to have less bridesmaids than the people that you've already talked to and identified. So it's always best if you sort of keep that on the down low, really discuss with your fiance how many people you want to have. I hear a lot of people say that you don't want to have 5 bridesmaids and then like only 3 groomsmen because it's like uneven. You can have 2 bridesmaids walk with groomsmen. It's not a problem. It is really your wedding. But you do want to make sure that you're asking people that are going to be helpful and not a hindrance. If you have friends that are really lovely, but they are not very reliable or dependable, those may not, as much as you love them, they may not be the people that you want to rely and depend upon as a bridesmaid for the whole wedding planning process and everything that goes along with that. You can have them do a reading. There's a lot of different things that you can have at your wedding to give people that you love a special spot without causing you some stress in that wedding planning process. And I don't know a bride that hasn't had 1 or 2 issues in that area. And typically it's because they ask someone without really thinking about it. So think about it ahead of time. My last tip is not what you want your wedding to look like, but what do you want your wedding to feel like? Ultimately, you are joining 2 people into a marriage. And so you're joining 2 lives. You really want to have the feeling of both of you. You want his friends to come to the wedding and say, oh my gosh, this is so you. Guys probably wouldn't say that, but you know, your mom or whatever. And to look around a wedding and to see physical things or the music or the feeling of the wedding, that you know it's these 2 people's wedding, that it's different, it's unique, it is totally yours. One way to start going about that is, of course, a Pinterest board. But I always warn, sorry, my dog's sitting here. I always warn brides to shy away from finding exact things that they want and trying to replicate it exactly. Find inspiration on Pinterest and pin things that you like and finding how you can do your own little twist on it. The same thing goes to colors as well. You can decide on your wedding colors by not just your favorite color and his favorite color, because they may not go together. Provide that mood or the sensation or the visual sensation of you guys as a couple. I hope that you have a great day. Happy wedding planning and congratulations to you. If you are planning your wedding, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. I deliver free information, tips, and advice. If you agree with something in this video, definitely put it down below in the comments. If you disagree, put that down below in the comments. And most importantly, I'm trying to come up with content on a weekly basis for brides and grooms, and I would really love it if you would put something in the comments below letting me know what you would love to see or what things you would love for me to talk about. Have a great day. Bye.